What's up, everybody? Welcome to Headbanging Through It. I'm Jamie. Today, I'm going to start by just giving everybody an update on how I'm doing. I am a little out of sorts today. I'm pretty tired. I'm not feeling super great. Um, yeah, winter is just really hard for me. And I've been thinking a lot about just in general mental health the last, since I started doing some of these episodes, and just having conversations with people surrounding mental health. And I just feel exhausted. I feel a little exhausted. And I think that that is just part of what is going to come with, putting myself out there and having these conversations. I do want to talk really briefly before I get started on my subject for the day about what it looks like when I bring up certain subjects like my PTSD and talk about it so openly, like I did in my third episode, and what the fallout of that looks like. I definitely can talk about it. It is difficult for me to do that. I will continue to have these conversations because I think it's important. And I also want to let everyone know that with that comes some setbacks for me with my health, right? So I didn't sleep very well after that episode. I was up multiple times in the night over the course of probably the following week with like pretty severe chest pain and just waking up in a state of panic, insomnia, not being able to go back to sleep, and just like things coming up from my past that I haven't fully worked through that I'm not sure I want to tap back into. So, anyways, with my PTSD, there's just lots of layers to it. I work at it every day. There's still pieces that are there. It's not going to stop me from continuing to have these conversations, and they're hard. So, I just wanted everyone to know that, like, with what I'm doing, there's a side of it that, like, it does impact my personal life and my health, which impacts my family and the people around me. So I have to be very careful how I navigate these things. I do want to continue to have these conversations, and I'm going to do it in ways that keep me healthy. And if I need to take space from it, and pauses and, take the time to reset and calm my nervous system back down, then I'm going to do that. Yeah, I might not be super engaged for a few days here and there. Like, I'm not always going to respond to messages. Sometimes I'm going to need space from it, and that's just what it looks like. So just throwing that out there and letting everyone know, I have to just take each day as it comes. Not personal to you guys. I have to do what's best for my health. I also want to be very open about like what's going on, because again, I just don't think there's a lot of conversations being had around this stuff. I did record a podcast with my friend Kristen a week ago. However, I had some sound issues. And so that's unfortunate because it was a really great discussion. And I really was looking forward to airing it for everyone and having a guest on the show. So it's not just me talking all the time. I will have guests on the show. I just have to figure out my multi-track system. I'm still sorting some of this stuff out. So just bear with me. I just don't really feel like talking today. So I guess it's kind of weird to record a podcast when you don't really feel like talking. But I was really excited to like jump on the mic and get like started into this topic. And then when it came like time to do it, I just felt like I didn't want to do it anymore. But I'm trying to get through that because I want to work through these things as they come up. And like shutting down is this thing that I do where I like not fall, but I like lock myself into this space and then I don't come back out of it for like a week. And if I can just hold off on doing that, maybe I won't get stuck in it. And I'm doing my best to break some of these cycles. And winter's really easy for me to just go into like hiding mode. That's what I do. I just like want to go into my closet and close the door and just not come out until the spring. And I don't want to see anyone and I don't want to talk to anyone. I really, with this podcast, I want to break myself out of that cycle. So I'm moving through it, but it is like a bit of a struggle for me right now. I'm not feeling super like stoked on what I'm doing. And I think that's just part of it too. Yeah, I just don't feel like I have a lot of compassion around that sometimes either. So I'm just feeling like a little down. And that's just what my life looks like. And part of my symptoms with my diagnosis is like my memory's really not great. My focus goes in and out. And so I just don't really feel like I have my train of thought like super sharp today. So if I ramble or I move from one subject to another and I don't always like, am not following where I'm going, that's just because my brain doesn't seem to be working today. And maybe I shouldn't be recording this podcast. I don't know. I'm going to headbang through it and I'm going to do the podcast. And if I'm a shit show today, that's just how I am. I don't want to hide the stuff that I go through because I just think that it doesn't make any sense to do that. I'm trying to talk about mental health, so I don't want to hide my mental health issues. And this is what it looks like. So, anyways, the topic that I do want to talk about today is SSRIs. And if you guys don't know what SSRIs are, please take some time to go look it up. If you want information and like detailed information on what they are and what they do, I'm not a medical expert. I'm not here to talk about like what you should or shouldn't do. I'm not here to give medical advice. I'm just a fucking person talking about something that I've been through, and that's it. And everyone that has been on these or had any sort of like experience with these may have a different story than me. I'm just here to tell my side of it and what I have personally experienced, and with that, the conversations that I've had with other people who have also had those experiences. I haven't shared it with very many people. There's only a core few people that I have talked to about this stuff. And then each time that I tell this story to someone new, I hear another person like say to me, "Oh my God, like this also happened to me," or "This also happened to my family member or my friend." Lots of feedback around it that I'm kind of been going like, "What the fuck? How come no one's talking about this?" I think it's really strange. And as someone that went through it and had a really hard time with it, I think it's an important conversation to have, especially because when I went through and I discussed it with a medical professional, no one gave me this information. And I think that's really scary. And I think it's really important to talk about because we have to be in control of our health. There are things that we should know surrounding our health. And I don't know if we always ask questions. I know I certainly didn't. And I'm going to side ramble because this is what my brain is doing today. But because of all the stuff that I've seen and I've gone through in the last like 5 years or so, I've really developed this like curiosity and I guess probably you could say a bit of mistrust, maybe more than a bit of mistrust around our medical systems. And that's just based on my personal experience. I've talked to lots of people that are like, they don't have that same experience and they're like, "Oh, that sounds weird," or "That doesn't make any sense." And then they continue on like, "Well, that's never happened to me. So, whatever." And that's fine. I think for the most part, the medical system, like if you have like a clear cut kind of issue, you've got a broken bone or something that's like has a simple resolution, you need antibiotics, whatever, stitches, then the care there is just a little bit higher. You go in, you get what you need, and you leave. But for people that have like more intricate or involved or long-term, chronic illnesses, the system looks really different for people like that. And I think it's a big conversation to have. I think that there's a lot of questions that, that we should be asking or at least getting curious about, and they're concerning. So I know that's a side note, but like my best friend also has a brain injury and it was medically induced. So I'm sure that I will have a more involved conversation about that at some point down the road on this podcast. I hope to have her on. She's the one that I was recording with last week and the podcast didn't work out. She's my person. She's my best fucking friend on the planet. She's amazing. She's been through so many things. There's a lot of stuff around her injury that's really fucked up and people will call conspiracy theorists, whatever. Not everyone wants to talk about it. People don't want to look at it. Blinders on a lot with the stuff that went on with her. But because of what I went through with her, I've seen a lot of weird shit in our medical system. So it prompted me to dig further into my own personal journey with my medication. And it's the reason that I eventually chose to wean myself off my meds. And I'm not suggesting that anyone out there should do that. Of course, you should do it with a doctor. And I did do it with medical guidance. However, the medical guidance I got was just like really hard to get. And I'll explain it, but there was a lot of stuff that I went through to get where I needed to go. And it was just weird. A lot of it was strange. It didn't sit well with me. I look back and I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Why aren't we being supported in ways that, we should be supported in? It's when we're going through something, we also need to be guided navigated through that issue and figure out how to properly help ourselves and not be so completely reliant on the medical system to sustain us. And not for everything, like obviously not for everything. And every situation is different and every person goes through different things with their health, right? So for everyone, and I say this regularly, for everyone, it looks different, right? We're not all the same. We haven't gone through all the same experiences. Our health is definitely not all the same. The whole point of this conversation is just to like prompt people or hope to like get people to think about it. Think about asking a few more questions. Think about getting to the bottom of that. Think about reading a little bit more into that and getting a little bit more information, because I think we trust a little bit too much on the surface level of like the care that we're getting, assuming that the medical professionals are doing everything in our best interest. And I have always been that way. I've not questioned very many things as far as healthcare has gone in the course of my life until I left my job. And then, lots of things happened with my health. And I went down this journey of like recovery, and so many things opened up and like changed my perspective on just different avenues of things. Going on meds in the first place is not something that I ever thought that I would do, like medications for someone that's sick, right? And because I was in so much denial about what I was going through with my mental health, I didn't believe that I needed them, right? Because I was in this state of like, anxiety is not real. I don't have anxiety. I didn't have a panic attack. I'm fine. This chest pain is not related. It's something else. Like there's something physical going on with me, right? I just denied it. I did not acknowledge what was going on with me. And I've talked about that. It took me a long time to get to the point of like understanding that this was something that was going on in my body. It was physical. Like nervous system issues are physical. You just can't see the things that are going on. It's not like you have a broken limb or whatever. It's an unseen injury. And so it's just harder for people to wrap their brains around. And then when I finally did come to some point of like acceptance, it shifted a lot for me. Getting to the point of saying yes to medication was a really hard place for me to get to, because I, for so long in my life, have told myself that I can do everything on my own, right? I was raised as a very independent person. You don't need to rely on anyone but yourself. If want to get something done, do it yourself. And I can take care of me, right? And I've always, felt that to be true. And I just thought that I was going to find a way through it. So for me to accept it, it was a really big deal. And then I also, with that, felt like I had given up. I felt like I had been defeated. I felt like I was letting myself down by finally taking meds. Like, okay, I'm actually super fucked up. Now I need meds to get better, whatever the term is you want to use. And I felt like I had lost. It didn't feel like a win. It felt like a loss. It felt like I had been just defeated. I think that's the right word, defeated. So I started taking them, and I was on something called Cipralex. You can look it up. It is an SSRI that is used to treat depression, anxiety, like a couple other things. And I did go over it with my doctor. I started on a fairly low dose, and then I did go up at some point within the few years that I was on them. I can't remember what I went through this morning, and I went through it. I read them all because I was like, I should read this stuff so that I know what I'm talking about. But my short-term memory is so bad that I just can't retain information. So I did read through it this morning, and you can go and you can look them up as well. But they're very basic, right? The side effects say fucking headache, restlessness, short-term this, can cause this. Very minimal things listed on the side effects. I actually still have them on my phone. Maybe I'll look just so I can actually give you guys accurate information. Oh, okay, here we go. Dry mouth, headache, drowsiness or insomnia, increased sweating, dizziness or lightheadedness, decreased appetite, nausea or upset stomach, initial restlessness or anxiety for an anti-anxiety med. Anyway, this was common side effects, right? So I went through, I was like, oh yeah, okay. I remember talking about these with my doctor, and if you have any issues, make sure you come back and talk to me or whatever, right? And I was like, yeah, okay. And I was really lucky because my best friend also works in the healthcare industry. She's a natural healthcare practitioner and acupuncturist. And I also have friends that work in healthcare as like registered nurses and LPNs. And I happened to have a conversation with a colleague in another office about like how I was doing with my mental health. And she was working the same position as me, but in a different office. I was having a pretty open conversation with her about how my health was doing. And she mentioned that she had also gone on meds before and that she really struggled with them. But she mentioned that she really struggled with going off of them and that it was like a really, really hard process for her and that I should be careful and just be aware. Right. And I was like, okay. And I had heard that before. So I was like, all right, well, I don't have to worry about that right now because I'm just like about to go on them, right? Like I'm not even thinking about going off of them. So I wasn't super concerned about that. I just kind of like tucked the information away. But I do remember her talking about that. And I had conversations with my friends in healthcare too about it. And I had heard that they can be really hard on you. So I did have conversations about the side effects with my doctor, but those were the side effects that we talked about, right? And then I didn't know that there were more side effects and that there were more serious side effects. And I went through those as well this morning because I was like, I wonder if it'll come up. What are the other side effects? Another little list, right? And then are there more side effects? Okay, well, then I get going here a little bit further. And down at the bottom, it says less common but reported restlessness, yawning infrequently, muscle tension, okay, tingling sensations, emotional blunting, feeling detached, and then bruising easily. And I was like, whatever, I didn't have any of those issues. And then it says rare or more serious side effects, severe agitation or suicidal thoughts, especially in the first few weeks or after a dosage change. Serotonin syndrome, rare but serious. Symptoms include high fever, agitation, confusion, sweating, or fast heartbeat. Severe allergic reaction, rash, swelling, difficulty breathing, heart rhythm changes. Uncommon, but important if you have heart issues to take other QT prolonging meds. And then low sodium levels. Okay, so like under rare, there's a few more severe ones in there, but like way down at the bottom. And like most people probably wouldn't even dig that far. And I know we get these like sheets with our meds that gives all the possible side effects. And it always says like, you know, if you experience any of these things, these rare ones at the bottom, go seek medical help. I mean, do you guys read those? I usually skim them, but like, do you thoroughly read them? I don't know. But I had gone through stuff with my doctor, so I wasn't too like worried about it. And then by the time my side effects started hitting me, it was like at least a couple of weeks in. I don't know if I still even had that fucking sheet. And was I thinking about like looking it up? No. So anyways, those are the listed side effects. It is what it is. It's easy to find. You guys can look it up. And I would say I was anywhere between 2 and 4 weeks into easing myself onto these meds. And I think I started with like a half dose for the first week and then like 3/4 and then like a full dose, whatever. They are really hard on your system and it's hard for your system to regulate. So that's what I was told to do. And that is what I did. But nobody told me that one of the side effects to being on an SSRI is suicidal thoughts. So I didn't know what was going on with me, but I started to feel like really fucking dark. It got really scary and I didn't know what was happening and I didn't know what to do. And yes, I have struggled with depression in the past and had dark thoughts and had like situations where I didn't feel like I really wanted to be alive. I have been there. This was different than that. I felt like I wasn't in control of my own body. I remember driving in my truck and I remember my whole body was driving and I didn't even know where I was going, but I was on my way to the bridge. Like my mind was telling my body to drive to the bridge. And I got down there and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I turned and I went off like down another street. But my brain was like, go to the bridge. Go drive off the bridge. You need to drive off the bridge. There was no other thoughts in my brain except for drive off the fucking bridge, Jamie. Go drive off the bridge. And I was like, what? Like I could hear my thoughts super loud too, right? Like it was my voice, but someone else was in my head talking to me, even though it was me, which sounds really fucked up. It was really fucked up. And I was just like, what the fuck? Do I want to drive off the bridge? Like, am I okay? Like, am I okay? Like, I just didn't know, right? And I remember calling my best friend because the only person on the planet that was going to understand or like be able to actually hear me without thinking that I was going fucking crazy was her. And so I called her and she was like, right away, she was like, this is your meds. Like, this is a side effect of your meds. And that is a bad thing. And you need to go back to your doctor now and you need to get off these meds and get on a different one. And I was like, absolutely fucking not. I was a hard no because I'm a hard no to everything, right? But I was a hard no to this because I was like probably 3 or 4 weeks into getting on this med, and it was really fucking hard on my body and on everything that I was going through, like these ups and downs and feeling like high and then low, and then like your energy levels are weird and everything just kind of feels out of whack. And I was just starting to feel like that what part of it was getting better. And then this happened and she was like, get off the meds. No, are you fucking serious? Like, I just went through almost an entire fucking month of trying to level out on these. And now you want me to go back and say, like, I need a different one? What's that one going to look like? And what if that one's worse, right? Like, what if those fucking side effects are like way more severe and I do go drive off the bridge? I was like, no, 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 no. I just want you to know that this is what's happening. I feel like I can contain it and that I can work through it. But I want you to be aware that like something weird's going on with me. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to talk to you when it comes up again so that like I don't do something weird. But yeah, I'm not changing my meds. There was no fucking way because it was so hard on me. I wish I had the words to explain like how hard it was to go through that in the first place. I wish there was like a way to articulate it to people to like understand, even just like get a glimpse of what that fucking looked like because it was awful. And then to have this weird voice on top of that, I think back about it now and it was scary. Like it was a scary situation. It did pass. I had a couple of more weird moments, but that they weren't as intense as that. It was fucked. And I didn't talk about it. It made me like wonder how many people out there are struggling with mental health issues and then being put on these meds that make them worse, temporarily make them worse, right? But severely worse in the first stages of trying to regulate the meds into their bodies. How many of them don't make it? These SSRIs are a big deal. They're a big deal. And I keep hearing about all these younger people now being put on them. I think there's some pieces and sides to these medications that people don't know about. And it's important to watch the people around you to make sure that they're actually fucking okay because they may not tell you. And maybe, you know, someone else's experience is different and their doctor did go over these side effects. I do believe that it's something that should be talked about more. Because the more people that I have these conversations with, the more feedback I'm getting about like, oh my God, that happened to me too. I went through that as well. Oh, this is my experience. And I'm just like mind blown by it. Like, what? So all of these people out there are going through this and nobody's talking about it. Like, why? Why aren't we talking about that? Like, I would like to have been aware and like had a little bit more information surrounding that so that when it did happen, I wasn't so fucking shocked and scared and wondering like if I was going to make it through that, you know, like it was such a strange situation. So I'm just like really worried about all of the people out there that aren't aware that this is a potential side effect, that don't know that it's the medication and not like something else, right? Like, yeah, I'm glad that I picked up the phone and I talked to somebody about it, but how many people aren't doing that, didn't do that, won't do that? Anyway, that did dissipate for me. Like after another week or so, I was much better and I did level out. So I guess it like helped me keep my head above the water so I wasn't drowning, but I still really struggled. They helped me with, you know, not feeling so fucking low. And with that came a lot of other stuff. I do feel like because I was on them for so long, like, I don't know, changed something in my brain. I don't know how to explain that other than it just feels different. Like even now that I'm off them, it just doesn't feel the same. And I don't know if anyone else has had that experience, but that's what it's like for me. I used to write all the time, like a lot, like all the fucking time, very avidly. And I haven't been able to like write at all since I went on these meds. And I've been telling myself for like the last, 8 years that it's not related, and I'm sure it's fine. I don't know. I just don't feel like I have words that I can put on paper anymore. I struggle to find words when I'm speaking now. So the fact that I'm doing this podcast is a miracle, really. But I feel like I can focus a little bit better when I'm like talking about it because I can get into the flow of it. But when I'm trying to write something, I lose track of my thought and then it's gone. And then I can't get it back. And I spend so much time sitting there staring at a blank screen or a blank page. And then I get frustrated and then I give up. And then I just like get really mad at myself. And so I end up not doing anything. And I've always been really articulate and I feel like I'm just not as sharp anymore. And yes, I'm in my 40s, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that comes just with aging, but it just feels different. It doesn't feel like my brain is functioning in the same way that it used to. And yes, I have trauma. Yes, I've been through a lot in the last 10 years. And I still feel like that's the reason. I don't have any medical fucking documentation to back that up. It's just something that I've noticed and something that I felt. And because I'm not on them anymore, I just see a difference and I feel a difference. And I think we know our bodies better than anybody else. So that's what I see. I don't have the answers. My daughter told me that I say that too much. But I don't have the answers. I'm just talking about my experiences. I don't know. Maybe somebody else has the same kind of like experience with that and you guys can reach out to me. I'm throwing it out there because I really do feel like there are other people that have been through something similar and they can relate to it. And maybe they haven't, had anybody share that with them before and they've been scared or worried about it or feeling alone in that. And I get that. It's fucking scary and it's hard to talk about. Like people that know me are going to probably be surprised to hear that because I don't talk about it with everyone. And yet here I am talking about it on a podcast to whoever wants to fucking listen. But that's just where I'm at, right? And if you can relate to it and it reaches you in a way that helps you somehow, that's what I'm here for. I don't know. Our medical practitioners also don't always have all the answers, right? Like their knowledge base is also limited. So it's hard when you hit these walls and you can't find pieces of information that you need or you want to have access to for your own health. I'm just encouraging people to ask questions. That's all. I think it's important to ask questions. And there just might be some information there that is relative to you that will help you through something. So SSRIs. That's my experience going on them. Now I want to talk about my experience going off them. I chose to go off my meds for multiple reasons. There was a point over those, 5 or 6 years that I was on them that I did feel like maybe I was going to be on them forever. I had conversations with family members and other people that are like, well, I just need them for the rest of my life because I have this and this and this, and that's just what it looks like for me. And I was like, oh my God, is that going to be me? I had been like, just really sifting through the stages of my recovery and feeling like I was, in a better place. And the thought of not having them to help me really freaked me out. I didn't know if I would be able to manage that. And so I just kept putting it aside like, oh, maybe this is just my life. Maybe I just need these forever. Right now, I need to keep focusing on my mental health and getting better and my kids and showing up for the people that I love, without being a complete fucking disaster. And the meds were really helping me with that, or so I believed in that time frame. And then my best friend sustained a very scary, life-threatening brain injury and everything in my world completely shattered. And through that, I just went through all this stuff with the medical and healthcare systems that changed my perspective on a lot of things. There are things that I saw and learned that I can't unsee or unknow, just like with my fucking work shit. And I'm sure that I'll talk more in depth about that at some point when I feel like I have the space in my brain for that. But it's a lot. Just ask questions because there's not just one answer to everything in life ever for any situation, period. Anyways, something shifted in my own brain and my own healthcare recovery. And I was like, I'm fucking done with this. I feel like I'm in a much better place physically, emotionally, and just health wise overall, right? Like I was eating better, I was sleeping better. I was like regular fitness and more elevated in a lot of ways. And I felt strong enough in my own mind and body and confident that I could take over driving my own bus again, you know? Unfortunately, during that time, like my doctor retired. And so I didn't have a family doctor. I had us on the wait list for a new family physician, but like I didn't have any medical support. And so I was like doing some of these like online calls, like through apps. And then I was like trying to get into walk-in clinics, and the walk-in clinic situation in my town was very limited. A whole bunch of them shut down, and then there was like no availability. And so I was like, I can't. I just want to fucking get off them. And so I made the choice on my own. And again, I'm not saying anyone should do this, to start tapering myself off them. It does definitely say that you should do it with medical guidance, but I couldn't get medical guidance, and I was just fucking ready. I finally did get medical guidance, by the way. And the medical guidance that I got was, again, like not the best. I got a lot of like, do not recommend, like didn't recommend me even going off them without knowing anything about my medical history or anything about like anything that I'd gone through. Didn't ask me any questions. It was just like, I don't recommend that you do that. Great. What? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then the next person I talked to was like, oh, are you sure that you want to like stop using something that helps you? But like, how do you know what I look like off that medication if I don't give myself the opportunity to get off it and see like what I look like? I don't know if I am going to be able to manage the rest of my life without them, but I would like to fucking try. And shouldn't you guys, like, shouldn't the healthcare system want to support me in that? Why do you want to keep me medicated? I don't want to stay medicated. Don't you want me to be in charge of my own body and my own health? Like, what is the fucking point of keeping me medicated if I don't need it? And how do I know if I don't still need it, if I don't try to see what I look like when I'm not on it anymore? Like, none of that made sense to me, and I got really fucking mad about it. How come I don't have any sort of support in this situation? Like, what? Does that make sense to anybody? Again, I've had different interactions with the medical system than a lot of people that I've talked to. It felt really strange to me. And so I basically said, well, I'm going to fucking do it with or without your support, because this is where I'm at in my life, and I'm ready to take control back of my body. And I would like to give myself the opportunity to move forward and see what my life looks like without needing these meds. And so I slowly started tapering myself off. And then I had more conversations with more random doctors as I went through everything. And like each time I called, I had to talk to someone different and explain, and it was exhausting. And every time I talked to somebody, I got different feedback, but it was all mostly like, I don't know if you should do that. So I was like, don't tell me what to do, in true Jamie fashion, right? Like, don't tell me how to live my fucking life. I'm the bus driver here. Don't tell me what I should and shouldn't do with my own body. This is my life. Nobody is in control of this fucking ride except for me. And I have been called like negative in my life, and that's okay with me too. If you want to label it this or that, it is how you perceive it. I just want to be honest, and I just want to like tell the truth, because I don't like bullshit and I don't like lies. And so that's how I live through my life. And I am who I am. I am working on lots of pieces of me that I have cycles in, and that is my work. And I will do it as it comes, as I feel like it's safe for me to do, or in a way that makes sense to me. But I will have these like side rambles and whatever. Like I might get a little fiery. You might see it as bitchy or negative. It is what it is. It is who I am. So I started weaning myself off. I think I cut them in halves and then quarters, right? So I started like cut it into like 3/4 of whatever the dose was, right? And I did that for, I can't remember, months, and just went down like a tiny little bit at a time. And then like a few months later, and it was like a full year before I was completely off them, because each time that I went down on my dose, I felt fucking horrible. I would explain it as like feeling like my entire body was just burning in a dumpster fire. It was just like these huge crashes of sadness, huge crashes of depression, huge crashes of just sobbing, huge crashes of not being able to get out of bed, mood swings, and just feeling like I was all over the place. One day I would feel like, oh, I got a handle on this. And then a couple days later, I would be like, I do not have a handle on this. And I always had my friends were always checking in, which was great. But I'm like, I don't know how I'm doing. How am I doing? Most of the time when you're going through something really serious, you can't really see what it looks like until you're all the way through it. And you look back and you're like, fuck, that was hard. So I didn't always know how bad my dips were until I got out of a dip. And then I was like, holy fuck, that was brutal. But once I came back out of it, I was like, holy shit, I need to be super fucking careful. Like, this is scary. Like, similar to how it was when I went on them, right? Like, what do these symptoms look like? And your body goes through these crazy withdrawals that you don't even really know are withdrawals. You just feel like you're sweating and like everything feels gross and you're tired and like it's just really fucked up. And if you've been through something like that, you get it. But if you haven't, and then you're like starting this process and you don't understand all the things that come with it, it's just really fucking scary. And you can't just like cut it in half and go. Like, that's really dangerous. So anyways, at the like 6-month point, I think I was like, I need a fucking break. I don't think I'm going to make it through winter. I started lowering my dose in the spring. And then by the time like September, October hit, I was like, I can't anymore. And so I stopped and I stayed at that dose for the whole winter because I know what I get like in the winter. And there was no fucking way that I was going to risk lowering my dose and then going through seasonal depression and then like not surviving that, right? Like, I was super scared about what that potentially looked like. So for myself, I was like, brakes on, no more, survival mode, get through the winter, and then see how it goes. So then when like spring came around again, the following year, I went down again and then managed to eventually get off them like through the summer. But it was very, 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 very fucking slow. And even with the tiny, tiny decreases, the dips were fucking massive. And those dark spaces that you fall into during those dips are not a joke. They are fucking hard. If you've got a kid going through that, like, it's fucking scary. It's really fucking scary. As an adult, I don't know how I went through that. I also, like, because I've been talking about it a little bit more online and stuff and like being more active on my social media pages, of course the algorithm is like, hey, this is related to what you talk about. So of course this like random person pops up on my Instagram and his name is Cold Plunge Cam, and you can go look him up. But super interesting. He talks about being on an SSRI since he was 9, which is crazy. But he was diagnosed with like, I can't remember what it is, like Tourette's and depression or something like that when he was 9 years old, and put on these meds from the time he was 9. And he's got to be in his 30s now. And so he, I guess, reached a point in his life where he was like, what the fuck? Like, do I need these? You know, I was diagnosed with something when I was 9, and was that even a correct diagnosis? Like, do I have these things? And how do I know for sure if I still have these issues? And so he is like on this journey to get off of his SSRIs, except he's been on them for like, I don't even know how many years, 20 years or 25 years, I think he said. Anyway, you can check out his page if you want. It's crazy. But he has to go down in like tiny, 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 tiny fucking increments because the crashes are so severe and because his body has been on them for so long. Withdrawal from that is so crazy and intense that it could fucking kill him if he does it too fast. There's just so much around these meds that are really scary. And again, I'm not giving medical advice in any regard, anywhere across the board. I think that there's a lot more conversations to be had around this kind of stuff, especially when it comes to our children, and just making sure that we have all the information and that we're keeping the people that we love safe. Anyways, I think that there's like probably a lot of people that are going through the same thing and have similar stories. And I just don't hear people talk about it. The more that we talk about it, the more we're going to understand that these things happen actually a lot more than we realize. The fallout is really fucking scary, you guys. Anyways, I've been fully off of my meds for a year now. I just don't know if I'm ever going to feel like I used to feel again. I feel like there are pieces of me that have just been like, you know, not repairable. Like, this isn't a nervous system thing that I feel. It's like a personality thing that I feel. And I don't know how else to explain it other than that. It's just like part of my brain is like, shut off now. And I also think that is really scary. So yeah, SSRIs. There's lots of information out there on them. Is all of it accurate? I don't know. You guys can go check it out for yourselves and make up your own minds about that. But I just wanted to share my personal experience and what I've seen, what I've been through, and what I know in my own personal life from asking questions and going through that experience. So that's where I have been with it. I'm hoping that it reaches somebody that needs to hear it, that is looking for support in that area or whatever. Yeah, and it's really hard. It's really hard to go on them and it's really hard to go off them. I don't know how we get through this shit. I mean, I just listen to music and I headbang. That's it for today, you guys. Peace.